the question that's screaming at me to ask you is at the moment then, because I had Gabor Mate on the podcast, and that prompted me to look into his work. And I've been studying a bit of his work on compassion. And he spoke about, he quoted a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he spoke about biology. You can't separate the biology from the psychology, and you can't separate the psychology from the environment, and you can't separate the environment from spirituality, which I find fascinating. But in the medical industry, we literally just go all the way back and just keep it to the mechanical aspects and completely throw away the others. So at what point on your journey did you start to put two and two together? Because even when you were studying to be a medical doctor, you spoke about an autoimmune disease and things like that, and that started to happen. So I'm really fascinated about that part of your life as well.
Okay. So at time zero, that awakening experience, it was all revealed to me. It was all that I would later unpack and understand, but it was all there as far as how our consciousness creates our reality, and that's happening and showing up physically in the body, and that what we call disease is not an actual thing that has its own power and entity, but it's our power that we're putting into that thing, and that we can really allow disease to completely resolve and not be part of our reality. Okay. When I then was in medical school and had this autoimmune disease, but I didn't know it was an autoimmune disease. I just knew I was very sick. I couldn't figure what was wrong. I felt like crap. I had these chills and joint pain and fatigue, and it was a nightmare. And understanding mind body medicine, I tried to heal myself, mind over body, and it just made it worse. Everything got more complicated, more convoluted, and more intensified. And so once I then got like the right person and the right diagnosis, and here you go, we understand you have blah, 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 blah syndrome. Here's what you need to do. You're not going to be a runner anymore. You're going to have to control your environment. You're not going to probably be able to do medical school because I was going to live in a different hospital every month. And it went on and on and on about the solution. And that's when I broke free from the whole delusion. This is not my truth. This is where he lives, and that's okay. This is not true for me. And that's when I finally dropped in to listen deeply to life, to the wisdom that creates us, and to surrender and stop running away from my symptoms or trying to improve myself, overcome the problem, and let go. And the message really was, you don't need to fear yourself. I was afraid that I'd fail, or I'm not good enough. I need to keep going and push harder. And so my life came this like ongoing self-improvement program. And it was very intense. I was pushing. And that day was when I realized, I can let life live through me and be what I am. And that will emerge into the greatness that I'm looking for.
Wow. I heard you say the word surrender and let go in those sentences. Do you feel that's the key, that if we have some misalignment within the body, that we tend to push for it to be healed or fixed, and the fact that you kind of just let it all go was the defining shift?
Yes. The ailments were a result of my contraction and my closure, and where I was responding to life from the fear response. And they were actually just there to show me what that creates. What does it create when I close? What does it create when I control? That's where you're going, so that I can make a new choice. And the truth is, when we to let in source energy, because everything I learned about mind body medicine really was about what source energy can do in the body. If I open to source, it's got it handled. Boom, boom, boom. Rearrangement of the cellular and the genetics. I just didn't know how to do that. I thought I was going to heal myself. So the truth is, like, though, to come into that openness, to let more of source energy come through, to let more life force come through, requires that I let go, that I be surrendered, that I be, the virtues, right? Compassion for myself or for others. When we are in, the judgment and the closure and, cutthroat, I'm going to, get the highest grade or whatever that is, we're not in the virtue. We're in a lower frequency. So we're literally closing ourselves off from that life force.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So then when you went into becoming a medical doctor, were you armed with all this information, or was it something that still progressively revealed itself? Because I'm fascinated as well, at what point were you sharing about your own journey as well? So there's two questions there, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's like 100 things. So in one way, there was already the clarity, but it unfolded. Day by day, our life unfolds more of it. So we keep opening more to it. When I went to medical school, I went to an osteopathic medical school. So I learned about how the mind and body are connected, how the body heals itself, and how, as within, so without, our consciousness affects our physical. It isn't true that, in osteopathic medicine, that necessarily gets really instilled. It's like a separate course over here. And then you have all your allopathic medicine and you're doing your work over here. So it's kind of gone in that direction, right? Because it got taken over by the institutional medical realm, because they don't want any doctors being that successful at healing in the institution. And so it was like, all right, if you're going to stay in this institution, you have to abide by, that's a corporate entity. And if people are healing, it doesn't feed the corporate entity. So the mainstream isn't going to be that. Okay, so here I am, but I did have that. And I think that was really the saving grace of all of it. So I learned a lot, and I did an extra year of fellowship in osteopathic medicine. And I worked with some master healers who could read what was going on across the room and help impact what was going on at that table across the room, who could put their hands on the patient and not only know what was going on, but witness the healing happening, and who taught me to do that, which I now understand so much more about what was happening. But when I came to interview at that medical school, I heard about these workshops and about these people doing things. And I thought, I didn't know we could do that. With everything I'd learned, I didn't know we could function that way. And I thought, this is where I want to be. So that was there. And then during residency, I was in a very, very allopathic residency, a level 1 trauma center, that's the hub where they send everything out. Some car crash in Florida would get sent to our hub in Atlanta. Any traumas, we had a lot of gunshot wounds and stab wounds and severe traumas. And this is where we were. But I had this developed gift already where I had done healing treatment and osteopathic treatment, and I'd had enough of a connection with it. So I'd always find people, whether it was through my yoga class or friends in my residency, who were like, I'm really interested in that. And so it was still fringy, but it kept it alive in my life. And there's no question that kept me going through and successfully completing that time in that residency. So I'd have these like sessions I would do for free, and we'd talk, and I'd get a huge read on everything that was really going on. And, yes, I know it seems like your anxiety disorder or your knee pain or your headaches, here's what's really going on. And then we would do the treatment, and people would have these incredible experiences. So I had that and some other pieces that were plugged in through those years. So that was definitely essential. And I think it kept me from getting consumed in that system, which wouldn't have happened for me because I knew my path, but it kept something alive in me. That was really the essential component.
Wow. I can't even really imagine what it would be like in that environment, seeing this conveyor belt of people coming through that are a product or a symptom of the systems that is already set up. And just that trauma and being around it, I can't compute.